Every night, she stood quietly behind the kitchen doorway, clutching the damp dish towel with cold fingers, watching as her siblings devoured steaming bowls of stew and warm cornbread. Ella wasn't allowed to eat until the floors were spotless, the dishes were dried and put away, and the backyard was swept clean of even the smallest leaf. No work, no food, her mother would say with the kind of chill that didn't come from winter air. At 12 years old, Ella had learned that hunger wasn't just an empty belly, it was a silence that stretched long past bedtime, a lump in the throat she swallowed with tap water, and a kind of loneliness that made her forget what laughter sounded like. She was the youngest of 4 children, but she didn't feel like anyone's sister. Her mother never called her by name. It was always her, that one, or worse, nothing at all. At school, the teachers smiled at her politeness and praised her neat homework, but none of them knew she wore the same jeans every day and scrubbed her sneakers in the sink before dawn. Her siblings mocked her for the way she folded her hands or lowered her head whenever their mother passed by. They didn't know, or didn't care, that Ella did it because she had once been slapped so hard for talking back that her ear rang for days. Her mother wasn't always cruel, not in the way that left bruises. No, her cruelty came in the form of cold stares, withheld meals, and words that cut deeper than any belt ever could. The kind of cruelty you can't report because it sounds like parenting from the outside. Ella was born during a time her parents were already falling apart. Her older brother once told her that mom had tried to leave dad before Ella came along, that her birth stopped everything, divorce, escape, dreams. She didn't ask questions. But she remembered that night clearly. She was maybe 7, sitting on the floor with her back against the laundry machine, when she heard her mother say to Aunt Carol on the phone, "If it weren't for church pressure, I would have gotten rid of that last one." That last one was her. And from that moment, Ella understood something most children shouldn't: she was not wanted, not truly. Her presence was tolerated like a stain on the wall no one had the time to scrub off. When it rained, Ella used old grocery bags to line her shoes so she wouldn't track mud indoors. Once, her mother made her clean the entire floor again because a wet footprint had been missed. Dinner that night came and went. Her siblings ate early, laughing, asking for seconds, while Ella sat on the porch with a dry biscuit she had saved in her backpack from lunch 2 days ago. She ate it slowly, each bite scraping her throat, but it was better than nothing. She never cried when she was hungry. Hunger was familiar, almost comforting in its consistency. Crying only brought more silence from her mother. Sometimes she wondered if her mother actually enjoyed watching her suffer in silence, if it gave her a sense of control, of punishment fulfilled. Ella had learned to become invisible in her own home. She moved without sound, worked without complaint, and learned to breathe shallowly so no one would accuse her of sighing too loudly. The injustice wasn't just in the chores or the food, it was in the way love had a price tag she could never afford. Her sister got a birthday cake. Her brother got a new jacket in winter. Ella got a warning not to touch anyone else's things. She once dared to ask for a slice of cake left in the fridge, and her mother said, "What have you done to deserve it?" That question echoed in her mind for years. She swept the porch, cleaned the toilets, folded laundry that wasn't hers, all just to be acknowledged. But acknowledgement never came. At school, she was known as the quiet one, the girl who never raised her voice, who always said thank you. But no one knew she often went to sleep with her stomach aching and her heart tighter than her fists. Ella didn't dream of toys or bikes like other kids. She dreamed of chairs. A chair at the dinner table with her name on it. A chair where she didn't have to stand by and wait. A chair that said, "You belong here." But at home, chairs were for the useful, the wanted, the loved. She was none of those. And so, night after night, she scrubbed the same spot on the floor until her knees burned and her fingers pruned. She waited until the laughter in the dining room faded, until the lights dimmed and the house quieted. Then, and only then, would she tiptoe into the kitchen, open the fridge, and hope there was something left for her. Sometimes there wasn't. But she never stopped hoping. At school, Ella tried to pretend everything was fine. She answered questions in class, turned in her homework on time, and smiled when the lunch lady handed her a half-empty tray. But every smile felt like a lie, stretched over a hunger she'd learned to carry like a second skin. Her classmates avoided her. She didn't smell bad, but there was something about her clothes, always wrinkled, slightly damp, sometimes stained from the cleaning chemicals she used at home, that made the other girls wrinkle their noses and shift away. No one was mean to her outright, but they didn't include her either. She was the girl who didn't get invited to sleepovers, who never brought birthday treats, who sat alone at recess drawing spirals in the dirt with a stick. She'd once made a friend, a quiet girl named Kayla, who offered half her sandwich during lunch. Ella hesitated, then took it. The next day, she brought a note for Kayla that said, "Thank you." It was handwritten on the back of an old envelope because she didn't have proper paper. Kayla never spoke to her again. Maybe it was embarrassment. Maybe someone had said something. Ella never found out. She just folded the envelope again and tucked it into her pocket like it was the last warm thing she owned. That was the day she decided some people weren't meant to be held onto, even in memory. One evening, Ella came home to find her mother standing over a broken plate on the floor. Her brother was pointing at her. She dropped it, he said without hesitation. Ella hadn't even been home. But it didn't matter. Her mother's voice, cold and exact, said, "You're always breaking things, always ruining everything." And then the slap came. It wasn't the pain that hurt, she was used to pain, it was the fact that no one even questioned whether it was true. She stood there, hand on her cheek, tears stinging but refusing to fall. Her brother smirked as he walked away. Later that night, she found an old piece of bread in the cupboard, hard as rock. Probably weeks old. She soaked it in water and ate it anyway. It was the only thing she'd had all day. She thought about asking for help. Maybe telling her teacher, maybe talking to someone at church. But the words never formed. How do you explain the kind of pain that leaves no bruises? How do you tell someone you don't know what love feels like, only its absence? She clutched her knees that night under the old blanket she used as a mattress, listening to the sound of the washing machine spin next to her head, the only machine in the house that didn't yell at her. Her body was starting to show signs of the toll. Thin wrists, dark circles under her eyes, a constant ache in her stomach. She'd learned to drink water to fill the emptiness, to chew on mint leaves from the backyard when her breath turned sour from hunger. But nothing helped with the ache in her chest. The one that told her she could disappear tomorrow, and no one in her house would notice. She imagined it sometimes, walking into the woods behind the school, never coming back. But then she'd think of the sun on her face, the warmth of that half sandwich once shared, and the tiny spark of hope that maybe, just maybe, someone out there might notice if she was gone. It happened on a Tuesday. Nothing dramatic, no screaming, no storm. Just a quiet morning that began like all the others. Ella woke up before the rest of the house, brushed her teeth with a dry toothbrush, and folded her blanket in the corner of the laundry room. She tiptoed into the kitchen to start her chores, only to find her brother already there, spilling cereal across the counter. When their mother came in, still groggy from sleep, she didn't ask who made the mess. Her eyes landed on Ella. "Clean it up," she said flatly, then walked away. That was it. No justice. No pause. Just assumption. That night, something inside Ella unraveled. She lay awake staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint buzz of the old refrigerator. For the first time, she felt nothing. No fear, no sadness, not even hunger. Just a flat, hollow space where her chest used to be. She got up, pulled on the jeans she wore every day, and stuffed a few clothes and the envelope with Kayla's note into her school bag. She left the house through the back door, careful not to wake anyone. The night air was cold, but it didn't hurt. It just was. She wandered for hours. Past the school. Past the empty playground. Past the church that locked its doors at sunset. She sat on a bench behind a gas station until the sun began to rise. Her fingers were numb, her lips cracked, but she felt free. It was the first time she had gone anywhere without permission. The first time she walked without being sent. The first time she didn't expect anyone to follow. She found a shelter 2 towns over. It smelled like bleach and sadness, but it had a bed. She lied about her age. Said she was 16. They let her stay. They gave her soup, a blanket, and a pair of socks with no holes. And for the first time in a long time, she fell asleep without feeling like a mistake. Weeks passed. Then months. Ella didn't go back. She found a part-time job sweeping the floor at a bakery. The owner, a tired woman with kind eyes, didn't ask many questions. Ella worked hard. She saved every dollar. One day, the woman handed her a warm roll right out of the oven. "Eat," she said. Ella took it with both hands, holding it like it might disappear. She didn't cry, but her throat closed tight. The bread was soft. It didn't scrape. It didn't need soaking. It was warm all the way through, and so was she. She never wrote home. She never tried to explain. Some things, she decided, didn't deserve closure. She rented a tiny room above a hardware store, where the floor creaked and the window let in too much light, but it was hers. On Sunday mornings, she sat by the window with tea and toast. She didn't have much, but she had peace. She sometimes wondered if her mother even noticed she was gone. She sometimes imagined her siblings growing up, getting jobs, going to college, and forgetting about the girl who used to clean up after them. But then she would look at the chair across from her, the one no one else sat in, and feel full. Not with food, not with love, but with something that mattered more, freedom. A soft wind would pass through the cracked window, and she'd whisper to herself, "I am still here." And somehow, that was enough.